Hello everyone, my name is Eliza Zanhari, and in this video walkthrough I would like to introduce to you the visual component for my final MFA interactive design thesis project, um, which is a customized interactive simulator for hybrid beginning photography students. In this simulator, through direct manipulation and interaction with a virtual digital camera and the specific settings that I've created, the learner can better understand and easier bridge the gap between the abstract technical photography concepts and the theory behind those concepts, which would be in the context of what they're learning and why they're learning it in class and based on the class projects. By empowering the student through self-directed learning using the simulator, the learner can choose the approaches that best suits how they learn better, which is based on their prior knowledge and their individual and unique experiences, in which way they can build new knowledge and visualize and conceptualize and ultimately materialize their unique mental vision and share it with others more effectively. So to go over these, the prototype, I simplified the interface to only concentrate on the areas that basically are the most significant in any in a photography class, a better understanding of photography topics. So the very basic settings are the aperture settings, shutter speed setting, and film speed setting, and how these settings interpolate lighting. And in the initial lessons, I've broken the lesson plans in a way that the information is digestible. So, for example, in the beginning lessons, the learner could only manipulate the aperture setting, and these other two settings would be locked into like an automatic mode. For example, would be daylight mode, like 200 film speed, 250 shutter speed. So the learner would not be able to manipulate these two settings. The only one that he or she could manipulate would be the aperture setting. And um, basically, once they manipulate these settings, they would automatically see the aperture opening change based on the setting that they've selected. And they would also see a preview of a photo, like how the larger opening affects the image based on the setting that they've selected and based on the shutter speed and film speed setting that's already visible to them and is already in the locked mode. As the lessons advance, the complexity of the lessons also advance. So initially they would just be able to manipulate the aperture so they can have a fuller understanding of how this narrower opening would provide a darker image based on the film speed and the shutter speed setting that's already locked in. And then basically the same exact thing would be applied to the shutter speed. So once we get to the shutter speed lesson, the aperture setting would be locked in, the film speed would be locked in, and the learner could only manipulate these shutter speed settings. And there would also be an animated animation for them. So for example, when they have the shutter speed on a high level, they would see that the actual screen would move really, really fast, as opposed to if they have their shutter speed on a slower setting, where the back of the shutter would move much, much slower, which means there's more light that would be entering the camera. And then of course we'll be discussing the exposure meter. So for example, by adding an additional plus level, we would make the image lighter, or by decreasing the metering by 1, we would actually reduce the lighting, which means that the images will be darker. And finally, we'll be evaluating film noise. So once we get to the film noise, the shutter and the aperture would be in the lock mode, and the learner can just change these settings, and based on the preview they could visually see automatically that a higher speed film produces much more noise. But obviously there would be a lighting factor that would be discussed as well. So once these 4 parts are covered, basically then the learner will be able to actually interactively use the shutter and use the aperture setting together, and to see an immediate result on the image. There are some simulators in the market, and I'm going to actually show you the most popular one, which is this one, SLR camera simulator. And these simulators are, they're great play tools for student learners, or for learners who actually have some background in photography. So if you have students, like beginning photography students, majority of them don't even know what an aperture or a shutter speed is. They've probably never even heard of an ISO. So this, and the shutter speed priority, the shutter priority or aperture priority, also the advanced, intermediate to advanced techniques. So an interface like this, it's really not an effective teaching tool for beginner learners, because they will get very, very confused based on not knowing what each one of these tools actually are capable of doing, and there is no purpose for this, there is no context, so they could apply what they're doing to what they're envisioning and materializing their mental vision. So this interface, I changed some things, and now I don't even see the preview of the image. So once I click it, basically this is the feedback that I'll get, and it's fun. It could be fun for a beginner, for someone with some knowledge in photography, but not really for a beginner learner who is very new to these concepts. There are also this DSLR explainer, and this one, once that it loads, you can see that again it's extremely confusing in terms of I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just moving things around, but I'm not really, it doesn't even move properly, but it's not really showing me any preview. So it's really hard to apply what I'm actually saying here to how I can use this effectively, so that I can materialize what I am envisioning. And so there is absolutely no context for this. So it makes it a great play tool, but that's basically about it. There are other tools, there are other websites that also provide contextual information in photography. And again, the interface, once again, is extremely confusing for somebody who is new to the field, new and just trying to learn some basic skills, photography skills. So for example, if I go to learning, if I go to macro, and it's a little slow, and it's very textual and linear, and it's kind of really hard to follow for somebody who does not have basic knowledge in these technical terms. So what my simulator introduces is just by simplifying the basic functionalities of the camera, so that it's better understood, the learner can apply this knowledge within context of what they're learning, so they can materialize what they're trying to say better. but they're visualizing better, thus promoting higher level learning and critical thinking. Um, by allowing the learner to become their own educators through the process of self-directed learning, as choosing what method best suits them in this process, this simulator empowers the learner to become an active participant by engaging them more effectively in reflective and critical thinking about their ideas and how they can express their ideas and concepts better and more effectively with others, and just thus promoting critical thinking and conceptual learning. I also want to quickly show you the very rough prototype that I've programmed in Flash so that I have a better visual understanding here, and I just wanted to share that with you. So for example, this prototype, only the f-stops are active at this point, and the animated aperture is not working. But here, for example, when I click on the actual images, the lower the f-stop is, you automatically can see that the image is a little lighter and we have a larger depth of field, and based on the specific settings that I have not programmed them here yet, but the learner would actually see the specific shutter speed and film speed that can produce this uh, final result. And again, this is something that I'm envisioning. I mean, this is a very rough version, but I just wanted to share that with you. And again, this is done in Flash using variables. Um, but ultimately, as I mentioned before, I would like to create it so that it's the interaction is completely dynamic between the actual different settings, and at the same time I would like to be able to provide like an actual preview of, for example, if their learner is choosing an aperture setting, automatically they would also see a preview of what shutter speed and what film speed they're on as well, and which would include the before and after images as well, which by itself makes it a much more unique tool and much more powerful tool than all the other available simulators that we have online today. I thank you for your time, and I look forward to your feedbacks.